Okay, we're starting. Welcome to Math 205, section JW. Remember that section because I'm going to be asking you about it later. A few semesters ago, I started recording my lectures. I actually post them online, so all the cool kids like it can get to go back and watch the lectures if you missed anything, or if you missed a class and you want to catch up, or you just want to see something again. A lot of people complain about sometimes math classes go by so quickly. Now you can go and watch me in slow motion. You can set it on half time, really slow things down, repeat, watch me on full screen, whatever your fancy is. But yeah, so I'll be recording these, and I will give you guys the link to actually check out the videos when I post them. For now, we're just going to go through the syllabus together, because you can't say no one ever told you. And then we'll take it from there. So my name is Jhevon Smith. Jhevon is fine. You don't have to call him Professor or Mr. Smith or anything like that. Jhevon is fine. That's my email right there. Note that email because I'll be referring you to it soon. Office hours are by appointment, and that's my website, which is kind of a general website. You'll also see here the Math 205 website, right? So that's the website for this class, where you'll have a lot of information about this class on that page that the math department puts up. And below that, you'll see for this class, and I gave you a web page. That's the page that I created for this class in particular, section JW. And I'll be referring you to that class as well. The textbook is Brief Applied Calculus by Stewart and Clegg. We're not really going to be using the textbook. You don't really need it. If you definitely need it, there are copies around college that you can get access to. They have it in the library, the science library. They probably have it in the NAC library, I'm not sure. And you'll be able to get it at the tutoring center as well. They have a few copies there. So if you really need the textbook and you want to actually read from the textbook, you can have access to it. You don't need to own it, it's if you want to. The textbook you'll only use for this semester anyway, so it's a lot of money for one semester. It's not even like that. Yeah. Oh, you didn't get it. To me, it's a lot of money for one semester. It's not like the calculus book that they use for 1, 2, and 3. You use the same book for 3 semesters. You'll only use this semester, and you'll probably never use it again. It's up to you if you want to get it, but it's not required. So if you actually bought it already, you can return it and get your money back. I don't know how many. So I have quite a few lower freshmen here as well. So yeah. I remember when I was a freshman, I was so afraid when I was in college. Oh my God, I'm in college. I have to buy all the textbooks. I have to be on time for class and sit in the front seat and ask to go to the bathroom. It's not that serious. You'll learn eventually. Yeah, it's just like whatever. You don't have to get the textbook or anything. You don't have to ask me to go to the bathroom. You're all adults now. I'm not going to be forcing you to do anything. And you'll learn. It's kind of like those parents who they have their first child and everything's, oh my God, you can't let the kid get dirty. And then they have the second kid, like whatever, just dust them off, you'll be fine. You learn after a while. So yeah, you don't have to get the textbook for this class. We won't worry about it too much. So yeah, there's a little blurb that I gave you about the websites. So I'll be posting things on the website that I have listed for this class. So I'll be posting things like review problems for exams, announcements, solutions to tests and quizzes, etc. When you're reviewing for tests, I will refer you to the Math 205 website. That's where you'll see old finals that you can practice. So there are a lot of final exams on there that you can practice from. Calculators are not permitted in this class. You can use them on homework, but in class, for any test, any written test or quiz, you won't be allowed to use a calculator. So if you forgot how to do arithmetic, you need to start brushing up. Grades will be assigned according to the chart that you see here. It's a pretty standard chart. The exception being, we really don't give C minuses in this class. So if you get a C minus, I'll bump you to a C anyway. It's kind of departmental policy. So you won't get a C minus. Regarding grades, if you need the next class for this class, if you need this class as a prerequisite, the minimum grade you need to get is a C, right? So if those of you are going on to Math 209, meaning if you're like a bio major, or do we have any bio majors? Okay, so for those of you who are going on to the next class in this sequence, Math 209, you need a C or better in this class to move on. For those of you who only need up to this class, you can probably get by with a D. You'll probably talk to your advisor in your department to see if that will mess up your GPA or anything, but the way I see it, as you can see here, might as well aim for an A. Why not get an A or an A plus? You know, who cares about that? But that's the minimum we want to be at. More on grades. The final exam in this class is worth 40% of your grade. I have no choice about that. That's departmental policy. Right? The finals is 40%. The rest of it is broken down, as you can see here. We'll be having quizzes at least once per week, so be prepared to have a quiz every week. I'll probably make them every Monday so that you have the weekend to study. So yeah, expect a quiz every week. Homework, we'll talk about that, but that's also worth 5%. So quizzes worth 20%, homework is 5%, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Participation, pretty much attendance. I'm going to be taking attendance all the time, and I'll actually give you credit for attendance, which is actually pretty weird. So in college, they usually don't give credit for attendance, but I will, because that would be nice. So you should get at least 5% in this class. I'm just giving you for free. I mean, this chalk is getting 5% just for being not doing anything, right? So giving you a leg up there. In-class test, we'll have 4 exams throughout the semester. I will count the best 3. So I'll drop 1 exam out of the 4. How things usually go in classes is, I don't know, for whatever reason, students usually do below average or very poor on the first test, and then they're like, oh my god, I gotta make this up, and they're stressed out for the rest of the semester. That's not how you kind of want to go about it. You want to really start strong. So you don't have to worry about the first test, the second test, or the third test. And the fourth test, which will be during finals week when everyone is going crazy, you can just chill out. So you can probably take it or not if you don't want to. Right? That's sort of how you're going to want to approach the semester. Really hit the ground running and start working really hard starting tonight, today, or I guess tomorrow, because by the time we're done here, it's going to be almost 10 o'clock. And starting tomorrow morning, bright and early, just like start studying, right? Start hitting it hard. And then there's the final exam there, you see 40%. The final exam is cumulative, so it will cover everything. Each individual test that I give is not cumulative. The test, if you go a few pages, I didn't number the pages, but the pages after the academic calendar, you'll see a list of topics here. These are suggested exercises from the textbook that you can practice. But you see here in these list of topics, you'll see what each exam covers. So exam 1 will cover topics 1 through 5. Exam 2 will cover topics 6 through 14, and so on and so forth. And they're not cumulative. So exam 1 will focus on this, exam 2 focuses on that, exam 3 focuses on that, exam 4 focuses on that. You'll also see here that right now you know when the final exam will be, right? So we actually know the date and time for the final already, and we'll be in this room. So no one plan any trips or anything. Oh, I'm going on vacation. No, you know now day 1 when the final is. Make sure you plan around it. And yeah, I didn't choose this time. It's actually the college that chose that time. So you have 8:30 to 10:45. You're going to be here till almost 11 o'clock doing math. That'll be a lot of fun. Even I don't want to do that. I'm not a math person. Another option is, I'm actually teaching another section of this class, and their final exam will be on the 20th, and it will start at 6. So at some point later on, I guess after the drop date, I can probably take a vote for the class to see if you guys actually want to take the final on with that class instead, which I don't mind. And yeah, so it'll be a more reasonable time to take it. And you'll actually get extra time to study. Because in this here, last day of classes is the 12th, and you'll have a final on the 14th, or the 20th if we decide to do it that way. Anyway, so yeah, exams aren't cumulative. The final is though. Okay, moving on to page 2. No extra credit, no makeup. So don't be absent, don't have an emergency, don't get sick, don't do any of that stuff. Always be here, always be on time. Attendance, as you see, I called attendance today. I will call it at the beginning of class, every class, pretty much. Unless maybe if we have a quiz, I'll use that to count attendance. But yeah, I will count attendance. So you're late if you arrive pretty much after your name is called. And if you accumulate 5 unexcused absences, it can actually fail. You can actually fail the class for that. You'll get a WU grade, which means withdrawn unofficially. So to be excused for an absent or lateness, just email me within 1 day of the absent or lateness, explaining, what happened, and if proof is required, you should give it. Yeah. So no makeups. But if you're absent, if you have to be absent, there's no choice. You have to let me know what's going on, so I know. And I didn't mention this in my other class, but every semester I kind of have students who, after a while, they just stop showing up. For no reason. I don't hear from them. They don't tell me why. They just stop showing up. That's a really bad idea to do that. Right? You need to tell me if you're going to stop coming to class, because you have options at that point. Like if you stop showing up, you literally have no options. I just give you an F, and that's it. Right? There are other options there. So just keep me in the loop. Basically, is what I'm trying to say there. Let's move on to expectations. Work ethic. Like I said, work hard, work smart. Start going at it like as soon as possible. Don't put things off and put yourself in a bad position. I'll actually talk more about that a little bit later, about what that means. I do recommend that you kind of read ahead. You can, as I said, get access to the textbook and read ahead, or the topics that we're doing in this class, they're not strange, right? They're pretty typical for a calculus class. So you can even Google stuff and just look up the topic before we even do it. Try to get ahead of the class as possible, which it should be doable in the longer semester. In the summer it's kind of harder, but it's doable in a full-length semester. To have your mind kind of working on the topics even before we do it in class, it'll make things better. Because especially in a math class, things can get really intense. And after a while, your brain's just gonna quit on you. It's like, forget this, man, I'm out. Right? Especially at 8 p.m. at night, after an hour, eyes are gonna be glazing over. If you actually read ahead, your brain will be able to follow and stay awake for much longer. It's amazing, but it's actually true. I can talk from personal experience here. So don't strain your brains too much. The way to do that is to try to get ahead of the class as much as possible. So really start to work hard, try to get ahead. Don't slack off. It's only going to make things a lot worse for you. Homework. We're actually doing an online homework system. So you're going to be submitting homeworks online. And there are instructions here how to access the program. It's free of cost. You don't have to pay anything for it. And here I have the login instructions for you. So you're going to go to that website, click on that course. Your login is your email address, the username part of your email, your college email address, and the password is going to be your email password, the college email password. And it's actually linked to your college email. So if you change your college email's password, the password here will automatically change. So be aware of that. If you change your password in this system, it doesn't go that way. But once you change your email password, it will change this password. So be aware of that. And I think students have to change their passwords every 180 days or something like that. So yeah, just keep on top of that. Yeah, but I figured a homework system would be good because you get feedback in real time. You'll have hints here. After you do submit the homework, you'll be able to see the answers, so you can get feedback right away. Yes?
How many attempts do you get on one homework? Because I know you can choose how many attempts you allow for the students.
Yeah, I can choose it. I'll probably do unlimited. I'll let you know. It'll probably depend. So maybe if it's a hard topic, I'll do unlimited. If not, I can choose a smaller number. But you'll see there. I'll do at least 5, which is a good amount. Yeah, so this will be timed. They'll have a due date on it, so don't be late. Yes, more expectations. Expect you to remember every math you've ever done before this. Math is cumulative. If you forgot your algebra and your pre-calc, you are going to have a very hard time with this course. There is a saying that I failed algebra in calculus 1, which is usually what happens. A lot of students who think they have trouble with calculus don't have trouble with calculus. It's actually algebra that's the problem. As you will see, I teach you the calculus, you're going to be doing a problem like the first line is the calculus, and the rest of the 10 lines is algebra, right? Algebra is going to be very important, and so I do expect you to remember it. And I don't really have the time to go over algebra and pre-calc with you. I just don't have the time as much as I would like to. So you guys need to take care of that on your own, and I'm going to assume you guys are awesome at your algebra and pre-calc, even though in reality I know that's not true. I have to pretend it's true for the sake of this class, so you better make sure it's true. Look over your algebra and anything else that you know you're rusty on. Things that we're going to be doing a lot is simplifying, factoring, solving polynomial equations, solving equations in general. Graphing, you're going to have to remember how to graph things. Of course, arithmetic. No trig. There's no trig in this class, so for now you can forget your trigonometry. But yeah, basically just algebraic manipulation, knowing how to solve equations, knowing how to simplify things, knowing how to graph things. And what it means to simplify, which I'll probably talk about that. Next is a mantra, something you're going to have to repeat to yourself 10 times a day. I must not cancel across sums. I must not distribute powers across sums. I must not divide by 0. These are blasphemies. I will use brackets appropriately though. Repeat that to yourself 10 times a day because it's going to be important that you remember those rules. And if you read in bold right below it, you'll see why it's important. There are very, very, very stringent punishments for not doing these. You do any one of those, I give you a 0 for your exam. It's in bold. And no, I'm not joking. Every semester students think I'm joking. They find out the hard way I'm not joking. I'm not joking about that. So to make sure that, to be fair, I'm going to illustrate what these things are so that you know to avoid them. So here are things that you must never do no matter what, even if someone's holding a gun to your head and they're threatening to hurt your family or whatever. Just never do this. Do not cancel across sums. Sums is the general word for sums here. It could be plus or minus. So what do I mean? For example, let's say you had 2x plus 3 over 2. And I can cancel the 2's. No, you cannot cancel the 2's. And you're like, oh, that's x plus 3. No, it's not x plus 3. You cannot cancel the 2's. Why can you not cancel the 2's? Because there's a plus sign in between the two terms. And that term doesn't have a 2 in it, right? If there's a plus or a minus sign, same thing for 2x minus 3. So minus is the same thing. You cannot cancel the 2's. This is not the same as x minus 3, right? You cannot cancel across sums, right? Now, there might be times in class where you see me do something like this. And I might say, oh, boom, 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 and then I go x plus 3. I didn't cancel across sums, right? What actually happened here? How did I simplify? I factored out, this is probably the way you want to think about it, I factored out the 2, which is a common term. And now there's a multiplication here. You can cancel. And then you end up with here, right? So we can cancel across multiplication and division. Basic algebra fact here, I expect you to remember, do not cancel across sums. Don't think, oh, just because you see the same thing on top and bottom, it doesn't mean you can cancel. If things are separated by pluses or minuses, it's not legal. Probably should mention something here about simplifying. For fractions, rational functions, which we'll talk about later. Simplifying sort of first means factoring. So little rules like that, like what it means to simplify something, I expect you guys to know. Last semester I was teaching, I think I was teaching this class, where we had something like, let's say I had 9x plus 2 to the 8 times x squared minus x plus 2 to the 9th times 2x over, let's say x plus 2 to the 8th or whatever, x plus 2 to the 16 or something like that. Okay? So now if you're faced with something like that and you wanted to simplify, what would you have done? What would you do? You have to be quiet, talk. How do you simplify that? Yeah?
Could you cancel the power or not? Like 8%?
Take the common terms, right? Simplifying, factor in first. How would you factor something like this? You look for the common terms, right? Notice that there's an x plus 2 in both terms here. There's also an x in both terms. You'd actually take those out in front, right? So you could take out something like an x times an x plus 2. What power would you take out?
6.
For the x plus 2? You take out 8, you take out the lowest power. And what power would you take out for the x? Just x, right? There's an x to the 1 and there's an x squared. You take out the lowest power, so you just take out an x. And then you write what's left over. Right, we'll be doing tons of these, so I'm not going to skip it. And x plus 2 to the 16, and then you can cancel this into that, right? Right, now, last semester I was teaching this class, and someone got to this point. The calculus got them to this point in one step, right? Now, what that student did was actually try to expand this. X plus 2 to the 8th power. We know what that would do. You know what that do. So, you literally write like x plus 2, x plus 2. He did that 8 times, multiplying that out. And then he turned to this x plus 2 to the 9th. Multiplying that out. And I'm like, oh my God. This is why you need to remember your algebra. It saves you tons of time. So sometimes I have students coming to me like, Jhevon, that exam wasn't fair, man. Things are too long. I'm like, they're not too long. You're just doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing. Like if you spend your time doing craziness like that, yeah, you're never going to finish. So be aware of things like that, what it means to simplify. If you're simplifying a fraction, you factor. That's what it means. You never expand to simplify. And you never cancel across sums. This is so illegal. Never do it. You get a 0. If you see something like this and you don't know what to do, leave it. This would be fine to leave it here, right? Or if you think you're not sure, write Jesus saves, whatever. I don't care. Whatever you write here, literally anything but x plus 3. If you write that, you're better off, right? Do not cancel across some. Whatever else you want to write here, I don't care. You can sketch a doodle. Doesn't matter. Just don't write that, right? That would be very bad. Okay, do not cancel across sums. Very important. It's a very elementary math mistake that causes students a lot of headache. The next thing that we will never do do not distribute powers across sums. What do I mean by that? For example, you look at x plus 2 squared, and you tell me, oh, that's just x squared plus 4. That is not x squared plus 4, right? Because what you would do there is you took that 2 and you put the power here and you put the power here, which is incorrect, right? What is this actually? That's what it is, right? You're missing this whole middle term. Because what this guy is, it's actually taking x plus 2 times x plus 2, right? But even this kid understood that concept, but he still went the wrong way. And you have to FOIL and multiply out. For something like this, though, you should remember your basic formulas, like a plus b all squared is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. That shows up often enough for you to remember it. Right? There are other formulas that you need to remember as well, like the difference of squares, etc. Right? Anything that has to do with factoring. So we know these two, so we can actually do that. But never think, if there's a plus or a minus sign separating things, you cannot take the power and attach it to each individual part. Right? That is a big no-no. There are other times when it's not obvious. So I'm going to tell you about it so you don't do it. Notice that this applies to radicals, because remember, radicals are just powers in disguise, right? So if you see something like the radical of x squared plus 4, this is not the same as x plus 2, right? Because a lot of people think you can just square root this and then square root that and then add them together. That is not true. Why is that not true? Because what is this? What is x squared plus 4 radical? You can write it as a power. What would it be? 1/2, right? The square root is the 1/2 power. So for you to do this, what you're actually telling me you're doing is that you're taking this 1/2 power and you're applying it to each individual term, which is not valid. It's totally crazy to do that. You cannot do that. So that is not. In fact, this guy, to expand it, it's actually going to be pretty ugly. You have to use binomial theorem. You wouldn't worry about it, right? So if you end up here, you leave it like that, or write Jesus saves or whatever. Doesn't matter, right? Anything else other than x plus 2, right? You do not do that. So note that that applies to radicals. Yes?
So if we write something else, we get a point or something? Or
Yeah, I mean, if you write something funny, I'll give you a point.
all right.
Right, just don't write that, whatever you write.
All right.
Just like with canceling, you can distribute radicals across products. So if I had something like 4x squared, then I could take the radical of each, right? Because there's a multiplication here, right? So radicals do distribute across powers, because across products and divisions, because powers do that, right? So we know that the radical of a times b is just the radical of a times the radical of b. Or etc. Or if you have a times b to a power, it's just a to that power times b to that power. I think we'll go over some of these rules very quickly later on, but there are things that you're expected to know already. Laws of exponents and all that kind of things. So yeah, don't distribute powers across sums. Big no-no. Get into a lot of trouble because you're losing a lot of information when you do that. And it applies to radicals. Remember, radicals are powers. So if something cannot work with a power, it won't work with a radical. So be aware of that. Another thing you never want to do. It doesn't happen super often, but it happens enough for me to mention it. Do not divide by 0. It does not make sense. Ask Siri what happens when you divide by 0. She'll tell you. She'll probably curse you out or something too. But do not divide by 0. It does not make any sense. It makes no mathematical sense to divide by 0. So if you see something like 1 divided by 0, you're already wrong. If you wrote that down, you've made a huge mistake. Right? You cannot divide by 0. A lot of people think, oh, that's infinity. Or sometimes people write 0 here, which doesn't make any sense to do that. Well, I can even show you why it doesn't make sense to do that. Let's say 1 divided by 0 is infinity. What could we say here? Well, that would mean that 1 is equal to 0 times infinity, right? And multiply both sides by 0. But 0 is 0 times anything. I could squeeze in, right, that is 0 times 2. Right? Now in math we have something called the commutative law for multiplication. The order in which you multiply things don't matter. And we also have a law that says, it's called the associativity of multiplication, which means if you're multiplying 3 things, it actually doesn't matter what pair you multiply first. Now, what did we assume 0 times infinity was? We assumed it was 1, according to this rule. So 1 equals 2, right? If you pretend dividing by 0 has an answer, what you're in fact saying is 1 equals 2. And you know what? There's nothing special about 2. I could have put any number here. I could put pi, 3.7, 16, e. I could put any number here, and 1 would be equal to that number. In fact, if I assume I can divide by 0, every number is equal to 1. There's only one number. There is no number system. I destroyed math. We might as well go jump off a bridge, but the bridge will fall down anyway because it's built on math, and we're all going to die. Right? Do not divide by 0. It does not make any sense. We will be talking about something called limits, where it feels like you're dividing by 0, but the truth is we never actually get to 0. When we talk about limits, you'll see that. We're talking about approaching 0. We're getting close to something, but you never actually divide by 0. It makes no mathematical sense because it breaks down our number system and then nothing works. One other thing, use, I said brackets there, but I guess you guys call it parentheses. So every time I say brackets, students are like, just call it parentheses, professor. Okay, grammar Nazi. Where I'm from, we call it brackets. But here you might call it parentheses. Use these appropriately. In particular, you pretty much always want to use this after a minus sign. If you're subtracting something, open a parenthesis. So for example, if I can say subtract x plus 2 from x squared plus 9, what you would actually do is you'd write x squared plus 9 minus, open a parenthesis here, right? Then you put in that x plus 2, close parenthesis. Why? Because that negative sign here has to be distributed, right? There's something called the distributive law, right? If I write something like x squared plus 9 minus x plus 2, what you're actually saying is we're actually subtracting the x, but we're adding the 2, right? Which is not actually what we want to do. And there are students who sometimes will tell me, yeah, I write that, but I know that there are parentheses here. They're invisible. I know what I mean, professor. Don't worry about it. You don't have to write it. Right? You see, when you're on an exam, you're under pressure, and I'm like, 5 minutes left, and then you start freaking out, and you did that, and then you do a few lines down, and you look back up to try to copy things down. You're not going to see the parentheses there. You're going to forget it's there. I see it happen all the time. Write it in, right? Sometimes, write it in even if there's just one thing, right? Technically, you don't need it here, but just to be safe, that's not wrong, but not writing it is wrong. So be careful of using parentheses. That causes a lot of trouble. There are a lot of our formulas that have minus signs built into them. You're going to want to be able to know that you have to distribute something. Something that we're going to talk about very often is called the difference quotient, which is an expression that you've all seen before in algebra and pre-calc. And you probably didn't know what it was about or where it came from. In calculus, we're going to figure out where it came from. It's actually a calculus formula. For some function f of x, you might have to compute the expression f of x plus h minus f of x over h. Looks familiar? Mm-hmm. If you did algebra and pre-calc at City College, you're sick of this thing. you'd have done it so many times by now, right? It's actually comes from calculus. We're actually going to derive this formula for you, and we're going to see where it comes in, right? So there are times when we might have a function. Why are they so excited? It's algebra class. They're probably doing it. Okay, so there are times we might have a function, like I can give you x squared plus 2x plus 3 or whatever, right? And I say, okay, here's my function, compute the difference quotient. It means you're going to do this formula. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to use this to plug into this formula. What would that actually look like? What was f of x plus h? X squared plus 2x plus 3 plus 8, right? No. No. That is wrong.
You have to find f(x plus h) first, isn't it?
What is that? That's a very common mistake.
No, find the value for f of x plus h first. You have to find the value
For what?
f of x plus h.
Yeah, so what is
It's not
f of
given,
x plus
yeah,
h?
yeah.
What is f of x plus h? What is
X plus H
x plus h squared?
plus
2x plus h plus 3.
Right. So that is, this guy here is your f of x plus h, right? What f of x plus h means, everywhere you see an x, right? Notice that the x here is replaced with x plus h. Everywhere you see an x, you're going to replace that with x plus h. That's what it means, right? You just write the same thing and add an h to the end. That's not f of x plus h, right? There's a difference between f of x plus h and f of x plus h, right? They're not the same. Again, where the parentheses is matters. Use parentheses appropriately, right? So we'll talk more about that. I assume in algebra you should have done so many of these that you know this by now. But it's still a common mistake that students make at this level. For our purposes, if you actually do just write this and add an h at the end, the answer will always be 1, no matter what. So, which is actually not true. The answer here should have meaning, which we'll talk about. Right, so that's the first thing. We write this, then we put a minus sign. Right? See, once you put that minus sign, parenthesis. Right? Then we write f of x, which is this guy. All over h. We can cancel the h's right here, right?
No.
No. You do that, you get a 0, right? If you don't know what to do, write Jesus saves. But that's not what we do. What would we do here? Let's finish this.
You break it into parentheses, the x plus h squared. You break it into.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, let's deal with this. So that's just x squared plus h squared, yeah?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You do that, you get a 0. There's zeros all over the place. It's a minefield. Okay. What does that mean?
X plus h. Yeah.
Right. We're going to do x plus a times x plus h. You distribute, you'll eventually get here. It's a waste of time. Just remember the formula. A plus bl squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay? So you have that plus 2x plus 2h plus 3 minus, let's distribute this minus sign. Now what? Yeah, combine like terms. Right, so x squared kills the x squared. This 2x kills this 2x. 3's die as well. And what do we have left? 2xh plus h squared plus 2h all over h. You can cancel the h's, right? No, you cannot cancel the h's. Right? Fight the urge. It's going to. There are many people who have this urge, like every step. They'll be doing so beautifully, and then they just mess it up. Like this. Always fight the urge. Do not cancel across the sum. There are plus signs here. You cannot cancel. What can we do here?
Factor out the h.
H is a common term. It's in every single term at the top. We can't factor it out. So what we would do is this h would come out. What do we have left? cancel those h's? And the answer is 2x plus h plus 2. Eventually, when we see this guy again in calculus, we're going to want to plug into h equals 0, which is why I need to simplify to cancel that h in the denominator. Because of blasphemy 3, you can't divide by 0. And we'll end up with 2x plus 2, and that's going to have meaning to it, which we're going to talk about later. But so far, this would be your answer. Right? It's a very important expression. You'll see why later on. But for now, doing all of this is something you should be able to do. You should have the algebra capabilities to go through a problem like this pretty quickly without too many hiccups. Right? And if something was like here, like a radical x, you should know how to rationalize and things like that. You should need to remember how to do things like that as well. Right? But that's just an example. And you can see here, in one problem, there are so many ways you can make one of those silly algebra mistakes that it's something you always have to look out for. But the thing is, once you know what not to do, you don't have many options left. Right? You end up with only the right thing. Right? I can't cancel the h's. Okay, what can I do? You know, expand, and then you'll see that things have to cancel, and then you're okay. I'm here. I can't cancel this h. What can I do? Well, factor out the h. You're right. You can once you limit your options, you only end up with the right thing to do. There's not many things you can do. So that's just an example of using. That's an emphasis on the parenthesis. But as you can see, all the other things I talked about before actually came into play here. Resist the urge to cancel across sum, resist the urge to distribute powers across sums, resist the urge to divide by 0, which really comes up later. But that's an example. Things like this you should be able to do pretty quickly. There's some other rules here that will wreak havoc, but the penalty is not as stern. I'll just give you a 0 for that problem, not for the whole thing. At this point, you won't really understand what those rules are, but we'll get to them later. And you'll understand more about what that means. In particular, number 1 is a mistake that students in Math 209 make all the time. So I really want you guys to not develop that habit in the first place. Okay, so that's that. There's some things that you can do which give you an instant 0. Avoid them. So know them very well and avoid. Moving on to the next section, finally. Contact. When you go home, you are to email me. I will require that you email me, and you email me at this email address, not my official CCNY address. Email me at my Gmail. Jhevon teaches at Gmail. Right? You are to email me there. You need to tell me your full name and your class and the section. Right? I'm actually going to deduct points if you don't do this, so be sure to do that. Right? So I'm going to be collecting your, putting you guys in an email listserv, because I might need to contact you guys on important things, including your online homework and things that I'll be sending to you. So I do have also an electronic report card system that I'll be using. So I'll be entering your grades there, so you'll know your grades in real time. At any given time throughout the semester, you'll know how you're doing, right? Because there will be dates in the future where you'll need to kind of have that information at hand. So I'll send you that stuff. If there are any announcements or emergencies or special assignments or advice, I'll send you those emails. I don't like wasting my time, so if I do send you an email, it's important that you read it. Every semester, I might send emails, and then students will ask me questions about the exact same thing I emailed them about. Don't do that. Read the emails. They're important. Moving on, feedback. I do encourage feedback. I'm not going to lie, I like writing on boards with chalk, but I'm not just here to write on the board. I actually do want you guys to learn. My primary objective is to teach you, educate you. So if something is not working, like you think there's something that the class is missing, you can give me feedback. There's an anonymous feedback feature on my website, the page that I gave you. The first website. You can go there and you can leave feedback anonymously if you want, but it's not really necessary. But if you feel suspicious, you can leave it there. Just make it constructive. right? So don't be like, your teaching sucks. Say, your teaching sucks because, you don't do this, you don't do that, it's probably better you do this, right? Just make it constructive and sort of tell me if something is not working, and we can kind of tweak it along the way and kind of tailor things to this class as much as possible. Help. Some of you are actually been here for Algebra and Pre-Calc and know about this, but for those of you who are new, there are tons of help you can get around campus and so on and so forth. Tons of free tutoring centers around. The best one, I think, is in the Marshak building on the 4th floor. The Marshak building is it across this street? No, it's that way. So the Marshak building is across the street. It's the tallest building on campus. It's the science building, which pretty much is that building that Dante talked about, abandon all hope, all you enter here. That's the science building where all the hard classes are, physics and chemistry and all those guys. Right, so you go to the 4th floor of that building, 418S, and we have the Math Tutoring Center. These are the times that it's open: Monday through Thursdays, 12 to 5, and Fridays, 12 to 4. And it says here it's opened on September 5th, but I think that's an error because that's Labor Day. So it'll be the 6th. September 6th is when it will be open. And you can go there and it's free of cost to students, and you can get help on Math 205 or algebra. If you want to brush up on your algebra, you can go there and talk to a tutor if you don't know how to do it on your own. A lot of online resources are there. If you like forums, mathhelpforum.com is a great place. I used to help out there all the time, but I don't have much time for that anymore. Of course, YouTube, Khan Academy, Paul's online notes, Google is your friend, right? It's Calc 1. There's a lot of information all over the place. Wolfram Alpha is a pretty good website. Let's talk about Wolfram Alpha. Even I use Wolfram Alpha these days. I still use it to check things. So if you think you need extra practice on anything and you want to practice problems where the answers aren't in the book, like in the even problems, or the tutoring center is closed and you can't check your answers with me or anyone else, you can actually go to a site like Wolfram Alpha. Does anyone know about this site? So it's a great site. You can actually ask it questions about math. And for the most part, you can write in like English, and it will actually understand what you're saying and tell you the answer. And if you have the Pro version, which I don't know how much it costs, but it's pretty cheap for a yearly subscription, it will actually show you the steps in working out a problem. So for example, we could have done this guy. We could have said, if you typed in there, if f of x equals, how do you write x squared on a computer? You use the caret, right? X squared plus 2x plus 3, find f of x plus h minus f of x. On the computer, you'd have to put parentheses around this, /h, right? That's the parentheses that tell you want everything divided by h and not just this guy, right?
You need to put the parentheses in there, otherwise it'll make everything go on the
Parentheses over where?
You see how it says x squared?
Yeah.
You need to put parentheses around that.
Around this?
Yeah.
I don't think you
Otherwise,
need.
if it goes squared, it makes everything that you want after that also follow too.
I actually don't think so. It would not be wrong to do that, but I don't think it's necessary. Yeah, and you type that in, and it will actually give you this answer, right? So if you practice this on your own, and you're not sure, you can type this into Wolfram Alpha, and it will tell you the answer, right? Or you can type whatever. So later on, we're going to do things that we call the derivative, and you can find and you can type in derivative of x squared plus 2x plus 3, and it will actually give you the answer. It will tell you that the answer is 2x plus 2, which notice that it's when h equals 0. We'll talk about it later on. And we'll talk about what the derivative means. Don't worry about it right now. Right? So you can like type in words and it will give you the answer. Sometimes it even draws a picture for you. It might draw the graph of this just to show you what it is, and it'll draw a graph of that. And yeah, so it gives you a lot of information. It's a really neat site. It runs on the Mathematica engine, I think. It's a high-level programming language. You can type in human language in it, and for the most part, it will understand what you're saying and give you an answer. It's pretty cool. I personally use it even to this day. It's a great website, so that you might also want to check out. Okay, so as I said, Google as well, and you'll find tons of places. Patrick JMT does a lot of stuff as well on YouTube. So yeah, so there's information all over the place. If you like sitting down face to face with another human being, go to the tutoring center. And there are tons of other tutoring centers around, but I think this is the best one. I tutor there a lot as well, so you'll be able to even see me there a lot of the time if you show up during those hours. What else? Also, your classmates are a resource, right? You should get the contact information of someone else here. If you want to form a study group or something like that, which we will talk about later as well. That won't be such a bad idea. And of course, there's also me, so you can ask me questions. I probably scared you guys. I'll give you 0, but I'm really not a bad person. You can ask me questions. I'll answer you. All right, just email me and let me know if you want to meet up, and we'll have to arrange something. In general, I can meet before class because I will be on campus since the morning on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I'll be around before class usually. Accessibility Center. If you have a disability or a learning disability or disability that might affect your performance in any sense, we do have provisions for that. That's the location. You go there. I don't want to point at anyone who might feel singled out, but you can go here, and you might be entitled to accommodation. So everyone should be given a fair opportunity to do well. So I give you some information there. I've actually had students who went through the whole class and didn't know that they had access to this. And it just wasn't fair. So I put it in the syllabus, so now you know. Class rules, the usual: silence your cell phones, don't play on your phones, no Pokemon Go. No food, don't mess the class up. Academic integrity, don't cheat. I catch you cheating, that's an instant F for the old course. Don't do that. There are a lot of dates that are important. You'll also see that I attach the academic calendar to the syllabus. So pay attention to these dates. Make sure you read this thoroughly and you know if something might affect you. So it includes times when there are no classes because of religious holidays or national holidays. It also tells you when CUNY decides to change what day it is. So there are times when it could be a Friday, but CUNY decides, hey, we're going to pretend it's Tuesday. So things like that can happen, and it will tell you in the calendar when it does happen, so be aware of that. You might show up on a Monday and I'm not going to be here, and what's going on? It's like, today's Friday, man. It can happen, right? So make sure you read that calendar. Another thing that's important is withdrawals. You're only allowed to withdraw up to a certain date, meaning if you think things aren't going well or things are just too crazy in your life to concentrate on schoolwork right now, you can actually withdraw from the class and you won't get an F. You get a withdrawal grade, a W grade, which won't affect your GPA or anything. And the last day to do that is the 15th. Yeah. There's a difference for the WD grades. But you'll have up to the 15th to withdraw. So it's my plan to give you at least 2 tests before then, so you kind of have an idea of how you're doing. So hopefully I can give you 2 tests before then. You'll definitely have your first test by that date, but I'll try to get at least 2 in there by that date, so you can see how you're going if you want to stick around. Yeah, so that's final exam week. Those are the topic lists. We also have the course learning outcomes. We're accredited, so I have to tell you this at the beginning of class, sort of from what you're expected to learn. And there's a questionnaire at the end. All right, so I'd like you to fill out this questionnaire, attach it, and you're going to hand it to me at the end of class.
You know me?
No, it's anonymous, so
Oh.
just fill it out. I know some of these questions are the roll your eyes kind of questions, but they're actually really important. So there's a question like, are you sure you need this class? Make sure you need this class. And I ask you, think again, are you sure? Every semester I have a student shows up halfway through the semester like, I actually shouldn't be in this class. I actually didn't need it. Make sure you know that you need Math 205. Right? Make sure for your major, Math 205 is required and it is okay for you to take, and you're not wasting your time and everyone's time, because that will put you in a very bad situation. You'll lose a whole semester and this thing will be on your transcript for no reason. You'll get a W or maybe even something worse. So make sure you should be here. So the typical people who should be in this class is if you're a biology major, economics major, if you're a psychology, Bachelor of Science. I know a lot of people who want to get into the PA program here, the physician assistant program, take this class. Although I don't think it's absolutely necessary. You probably can get away with taking Math 173. But a lot of people do this class and then 209 if they want to get into the PA program. But there are probably ways around that. You should talk to your advisor. So those are the typical people who would take this class. So if you're not one of those majors, you need to make sure. Definitely if you're an engineering major or a hard science major like physics, chemistry, you should not be here. You should actually be taking Math 201. Right? So you need to know that you should have this class. If you're not absolutely sure, check it out as soon as possible. You don't have a lot of time to change the course. Yeah, what's the highest level of math you have to complete? I should probably have also asked, what is the highest level of math you completed in the past? Last semester, I had a student in my Calc 1 class who did not take algebra and did not take pre-calc. She fell through the cracks somehow and ended up in Calc 1 with no algebra and no pre-calc background. Of course, it did not end well. And I didn't find out until the end of the semester. So that's why that question is there. You need to make sure you're here. And that's also why I asked, how did you get into this class? I've had a lot of smart aleck students tell me, oh, I just went up the escalators. No, that's not what I meant. I mean, did you pass a prerequisite course? Were you put here by another human being? Or did you somehow manage to register for this course when you shouldn't be able to? That's what I'm trying to get at here. Right? So I need to know if you do actually have the prerequisites to be here. Dates for which you might not be able to attend for religious reasons. I know the calendar obeys a lot of the Jewish holidays, but if you have to be absent because of some other religious holiday, you should let me know so I know not to put a test on that day or something. Yeah, that's just rating your comfort level, and if you have any comments on the class, you can fill those up. What is going on? There's a section here I missed. Some advice, which throughout the semester I'll be giving you advice. And here are some to start off. First piece of advice is believe in yourself. I know it sounds cheesy, and we're all scientists here, we're serious students and all that. But rest assured, there is scientific evidence that believing in yourself makes a difference in your performance. Tons of studies that say that. I'm sure you guys have probably seen studies like that, where they use placebos. They give athletes like a placebo and say, oh yeah, this is a super steroid, you're going to run like faster. And they actually run faster when it's just a sugar pill, right? Them believing they could run faster made them run faster, right? Them believing they could lift more weight made them lift more weight. It's actually a physical thing that we can measure that they did, right? A lot of people are bad at math because they believe they're bad at math, right? So believe in yourself. If you're smart enough to get in this class, you're actually smart enough to pass it. I think pre-calc is harder than this class is going to be, right? So you need to believe in yourself. Know that you actually can do everything I'm asking you to do, right? It's just a matter of learning the rules and following the rules and avoiding pitfalls like this, which it kind of helps you follow your nose to the right answer anyway, right? So believe in yourself. We'll be talking more about that during the semester. Listen to Jhevon, next piece of advice. Because everyone has an opinion. You're gonna have friends who are like, no man, this is how you should study. You know, I just did this and I passed my class. Yeah, right. If you want to listen to your friend who failed Calc 1 2 times, or you listen to me, you should pick listening to me. Not that I'm the best guy in the world, but you know, my advice would count. I've been teaching a long time. I've learned a lot. I've had well over 1,000 students at this point. I've seen pretty much every kind of mistake under the sun in Calculus 1. I know what to tell you to do from what not to do, right? Which is, it's kind of where these blasphemies came from. Like the first time I taught a class, I didn't have like 5, 6, 7, 8 pages in my syllabus. I had like 1 page. These are things that I've learned over the semester after teaching over and over. I'm like, I should tell my class this, because this happened. Oh, I should tell my class that, because that happened. I should tell my class that, because that happened. And we're up to 8 pages, right? So I do have a lot of experience, so you probably want to take my advice. It might seem silly to you sometimes, right? Like me telling you to do certain things, you might think, how's that going to help? It'll help. I'm not going to tell you if it won't help, right? Every piece of advice I give you, there's a reason I gave you for it. Work hard and work smart. There's actually a phenomenon here, which I've actually encountered even last semester, where students seem like they're putting in so much work into the class. You're like, professor, I do all the homework, and I go to tutoring, I do this and I do that, and I'm still failing. You know, it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart. You kind of have to know who you are. So it's one of the things you have to pay attention, especially if you're in like a study group. If you're in a study group and everyone in the study group is studying a certain way, it doesn't mean you should be studying that way, right? You're like, oh, I spent 4 hours in my study group and it didn't make a difference. That's because you're following the crowd with what they all did. Not everyone is you. Not everyone learns the way you do. Not everyone has the same things, right? Your study group, the most people in your study group might have a problem memorizing formulas, and that's what they all concentrate on when that wasn't your problem, right? You need to be aware of what you're doing. You also need to know, one of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? So sometimes it happens, you go through and the student bombs test 1, and I'll have them talk to me like, oh, what happened? Yeah, I don't know, professor, you know, like, how did you study for the class? Well, you know, I redid all the homeworks and, you know, I looked over the quizzes. Okay, all right, well, and I gave them some advice on what to do when we talk about it and try to figure out what they're particularly stuck with. And then they do bad on test 2 as well. And I'm like, oh, what happened? I thought we talked about this. How did you study for test 2? Oh, well, I redid all the homeworks and I did all the quizzes. You mean you did exactly the same thing you did for test 1? Right? It's easy to get in a group. A lot of people think they know how to study something and they're like, oh, well, that's how my teacher told me to do it. You know? And a lot of people, especially if they actually took this class before, I don't know if anyone's repeating, I'm not going to ask you to point yourselves out. But if you're actually repeating this class, a lot of students, they're so afraid of math, they're afraid to try something different. That's not the way my professor taught me, I don't want to learn it, right? Or that's not what I did last time, I don't want to do it. So here's the thing. If what you did last time worked, you wouldn't be here, right? You would have passed last time, right? So it means you need to try something different, right? Work smart. Don't just go through the motions and do things what people tell you to do. How do you pass math? Oh, you just do a bunch of homework problems. You do tons of problems and you'll just pass. It doesn't work for everyone, right? You need to know what the point is, right? So you might have, and again, it's because everyone is different. There are a lot of similar themes, but when you get down to it, everyone is kind of different, right? So if you have a goal, if you, let's say, you know, you want to build a great physique, you want to get in shape, and you have a friend and they have a great physique, and you're like, hey man, what do you do, man? You have an awesome body, you know, and it's like, oh yeah, I do 20 push-ups every day, you know, every morning I get up, I do 20 push-ups. And then, oh wow, really? Yeah. So you get up every day, you're disciplined, you do 20 push-ups every morning, you're like on it, right? You still don't look like they do. And you're like, what is going on? I'm doing all this hard work. I'm doing 20 push-ups a day. This guy did 20 push-ups a day. He looks amazing. And I'm still flabby. What's going on? It's because you're not working what your body needs. 20 push-ups works for him. It might not work for you, right? You have to understand, not just blindly doing stuff, blindly doing the homework because Jhevon said so. You have to understand the point of the homework, understand what it is you need to get from it, and which I will be talking about. And you need to know that things will change. So maybe with this friend, for example, it's not 20 push-ups that's the point, right? Maybe he just does push-ups until he feels a certain tingling in his muscles, right? And he gets that tingling from 20 push-ups. But maybe for you, you need 30 to get to that point, right? Maybe you do 20 push-ups and you don't feel anything, and you're like, okay, I did the 20 push-ups, right? But because you didn't know what you should feel at this point to get the results, you're doing all this work and it's not doing anything for you, right? You get what I'm saying? There's sometimes you're going to be thinking, oh, I'm doing all this work and it's just not working. It means you're not working the right way. You're not working smart. You're just working hard and it's wasting your time. Do not end up in that way. If you don't know how you learn, which you should by this point, I mean, you went through high school, you should have learned that in high school. Talk to someone, talk to me, and we'll try to figure something out, do some experiments. There is also a counseling center here where they help you to overcome test anxiety and prepare for classes and things like that. So yeah, work hard, work smart. And we'll talk a lot more about that throughout the semester. I'll kind of tell you what the point is, what you need to do, and so hey, if you can get it to the goal after doing one homework problem, that's all you need. You don't need 100 homework problems, right? If you do all the homework and you still don't get to that point, you know what to look for. You need extra practice, right? And so you might go to this list, or you might do something else, right? There's always something that you need to look for. That studying like everyone else studies might not get you there, right? Different people learn at different rates with different things, and you need to be aware of that. Yeah. And there are some things that are in common with everyone, which I will be telling you those things, especially in class. I think that's it so far. A lot of information, but again, you can go home and watch it in slow motion. If you want to rewatch it. Any questions before we move on?
Is
Yes.
the final departmental?
The final is not departmental, but it will be based on departmental finals, so you'll kind of know what to aim for before you do it. But I will be writing the final in this class. Night classes do not have departmental finals.
Will you get formulas on the exam?
I will not give formulas, no. You have to remember.
For the textbook problems for extra practice, if we don't have the book, where do we get those from?
Oh, you can go to the library, the science library in the Marshak building. They have copies. The tutoring center as well that I put in here, Marshak 418S, has copies of the textbook. So you can borrow them, you can photocopy them. You can also check out the textbooks for 2 hours at a time. Any other questions? Okay, well, be sure to pass these up before you leave. And I actually have a present for you guys today. Did not come empty-handed. We have our first quiz of the semester. This is so amazing. I know, right? It's so awesome. So we will do this, and at the end of class, you will hand to me your quiz and your questionnaire before you leave. You have until the end of class to complete this. So that's the end of today's class.